Hi everyone, I'm back with another video about quality television, and I'll be discussing my thoughts. At the end, I'm going to explain what it is and why there are aspects of it that are not the best in terms of how it's described and where does it come from, really, nor does whole background, everything. So, what is quality TV? So, to define it, is you need to go back to where the origins of when the term was first introduced. So quality television was made had its origins in terms of the study of TV programs that were made in American shows because they were introduced because there's where the golden age of television came from, which happened in the 1950s after the Second World War, and a lot of families were going to were going moving away from the city and living in suburban areas that were neighborhoods and were quieter. There were less cinemas around in those areas as well. Because you have to go into the inner city in order to go to the cinema. And cinema did reach decline because the studio system started declining as well, which is why a lot of families had TVs. And TV wasn't popular. Only middle class families had TVs, not working class, because TVs were very expensive at the time, and only a select few of families had televisions in their houses. But everyone has a TV now, so it's the most popular form of communication in terms of getting news updates and stuff and current trends that are on TV. So American scholars have studied and provided their own perspectives of quality popular TV, and film historians John Cook and Thomas Eisner Alicia. So they both discussed the history of the term. So because in as I mentioned, the 1950s was the topic of interest of legislators, social scientists, philosophers, and cultural pessimists. So at the time, comparing TV was not very popular. I think because it was used as a way to compare film in the same way that film and literary texts were evaluated and were analysed as well. But the term quality itself is kind of a questionable term, really, and it has been a topic of debate right now, I guess, in the TV world. So, comparing British and American TV. So, American TV was very popular. I think British TV is less popular here. Even it wasn't well received overseas, but it's more popular in the UK because it's all about the life of British people, made by British people, and it's written through a British perspective as well. And American TV was more glossier and more glamorous in compared to British TV, which is very drab. I don't know, very political, I would say. But American TV had political in it, but it's more about the quality itself. They mean like so it lies the term to compare both British and American TV is how is you have to go to how the programs are broadcasted, broadcasted, and which highlights the difference between the debate on quality TV. So British and American TV both rely on commercials to attract their audiences, as European governments do not value their national television, primarily because of their economic status and all that. And it's not really well received, so they tend to turn to international. That's why British TV and American TV is becoming so popular. And both in the UK, we have high end TV, which is basically our equivalent to quality television, as they say. And, you know, I'll explain about high end TV afterwards. So, European gov, so British TV has progressed by analysing arguments presented by Thomas Elsius, Elsissier, who had a lecture, who wrote in his, he made a lecture on this topic, and he argues that film studies were more influential in setting an agenda for television studies than television studies itself. Just basically, he's saying that it's the texts, the way to study TV, analyze TV, is how you analyze film. Basically, it's the exact same thing. There's no difference. They're both done, and not enough studies are made on it as well. So both scholars and critics alike have studied it, and with a similar framework, because they have to consider certain aspects of how they study it through psychoanalysis, semiotics, gender studies, etc. So it's basically how film and TV has been studied, and it's how we look at it and how they write it or interpret it. So, despite similarities between the studies, Elsear states that analyzing individual texts poses a problem as it focuses on audience similar to auteur theory. Because there's theory on auteur theory that the audience is the author. So it's the birth, death of the reader, death of the author, birth of the reader. That's what he's saying. So there's the aspects. So we can put our own input into it. The audience has always been right because they know what they want, They know how. That's why TV has been changing so much and people watch TV more. Now I started watching TV. Hardly go to the cinema now. I go to the cinema, but not as often as I should do. I know I shouldn't let the art form die, but TV is becoming more and more popular. As in the UK, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk about high-end TV afterwards. And I think difference between American TV and British TV. I think American TV at the time people were saying it's very popular, and I think it's made by big studios also because they're starting to integrate conglomerates. So other they're buying other media. Multinational companies are buying medias and they're able to use their studios to make to produce good content that's quality, that has great cinematography, great sound, costume, all those things. So television allows audiences to be entertained and educated on what is happening in society, which is basically what British TV they both do. But I think British TV in particular does it the best. Like educates on how politically what's happening in this world, in our society, in where we live in right now, and how it relates to everyone else and stuff. Not many people could relate, but some people could. But I think we have a lot of variation in terms of how our programs are made. Like some are gritty, like soaps, and soaps are about working class people compared to period dramas, which are about the upper class, which I'll get into later. So it's a discussion of quality TV in television studies. So television studies have adopted methodologies which are similar to film and TV studies. I told you that it's the way they analyze it as well, and the way you interpret the text and reference it and evaluate it, how it's done. So it is done through the way to analyze text is through meaning to analyze the meaning of the text, focusing on how images and sounds are portrayed on screen, and try and to if analyze it and get what they're trying to say, the message of it, and what it's trying to, and what they are trying to do, whoever, what the filmmakers are trying to do, or the cinematographer or the sound person is trying to do, what their aim, the purpose of what they're doing is. So the aim to understand what attracts audiences to these programs includes visual textures, performers, and their legacy as inspiration for subsequent programs. These programs need appeal appeal viewers, make television look as cinematic as possible. So Horace Newcomb says there are three primary attributes that make broadcast television successful. For one, he says there are intimacy, so where the audience is engaging with the characters and the narrative of the program, because we know what we want as an audience. We know what kind of characters, what programs, what we like about the show. We need to like the characters and we need to like the narrative of the program. Plus continuity. So will that viewer come back again to watch the same program? So every time that program's there, will that person come back and watch it over and over? Each series that they go on, will they stay for it? And immediacy, which involves current events, so things that are currently happening, that right now, I guess, in the present. So Sarah Caldwell explains the difference between good and quality TV. So the difference she makes is that well-made programs are based on classical novels, like all the Jane Austen ones and Agatha Christie novels. Those, but they're not always the best because people do find them boring. And she made an anecdote about when she was lecturing, one student said it was boring, but they were able to tell her what quality TV really is, because they actually period dramas are educational because they talk about the upper class. Remember, as I've been saying, so as I said earlier on, sorry, and its label is similar to recognizing a Western film. So even though you don't like it, you will know what it is. You can see it because it's there, and there are certain aspects of it you can recognize that makes a Western basically, and it makes quality TV. And high quality is based on aesthetics rather than critical judgment. I think that's what I think. Why they call it quality TV is because it's all about the way it's made and how staged the, the program is, the actors, the way they perform within the scene. So So criticism. So quality. So defining quality is a complex task because people could interpret what quality really is because it does pose many challenges for viewers trying to analyze the shows they watch because we all have different interpretations of what quality TV could be, really. It doesn't have to be a period drama or detective or something, a detective film, TV show based on a novel. It's a bit messed up. So while TV is a form of media, it's not studied as a separate field it's because it's done through analyzing. It's the way it's analyzed and it's oversimplified in terms of popular culture and overlooking the cultural aspects of TV studies. So because they only care about what about it as a popular cultural medium, basically. They're not caring as if it's something that needs to be analyzed or something that will hold the test of time. Like for people to analyze and to look through and to interpret and to, you know, and to make sense of. Instead, it is important to develop a nuanced understanding of the political influences of mass culture, including issues of elitism, sexism, and class, which is why most TV shows are not really analysed in the same way that films are. It's too similar. It's just not. But they only focus on it as a popular medium, popular cultural phenomenon, I guess, or medium. By taking a proactive approach, we can better appreciate and analyse the complexities of popular culture. So Pierre Bourdieu, Bourdieu says there is elitism in cultural taste with popular TV undervalued. Well, I don't really get what he means by that, but I'm guessing he's trying to say that elitism is all popular culture is about elitism. Is elitism basically is part of it because only elitists could pretty much analyze it or to access it because quality TV is basically what they're trying to say. It's in lie. It lies on. I think the problem lies with the way classism is elitism, which is going to be enough for slides. I'm going to talk about a bit more. So there are critiques over legitimizing television, and Das Gupta says references Gray and Lowe's over the better argument on mass culture and politics. So they both argue that it's all about elitism, all about that. It's not really easy to define, and it's just you're only looking at certain aspects of quality, what makes it a quality TV program, instead of looking at it as a critique. You can't critique or make analyze. So cultural elitism is equivalent to contemporary excellence among the higher classes. Scholars argue that quality TV holds a higher status than other televised formats because of government regular government funding leading to more content, more seasons, advanced technology, and a demographic mostly for the educated upper middle class. That's what they say. But we are educated ourselves as working class people as well. But maybe not in the same line in terms of how. But it's made for that. That's the problem with cultural elitism. It's the problem with quality TV. That's why the criticism was there. It's because of it. It's because it's only made for them. And they're only going. These programs are what they want us to see. They want us to watch these programs. They're going to put more funding into them because they only care about these programs anyway. They don't care about anyone watching real life stories. They're only targeting a certain demographic. It's always the ones that are on top of that have the power to choose what we watch. That's what happens. It's always been that case. It's quality. It's a difficult topic, you know, and it's because they invest in more shows than others, even though they have been stereotyping people of working class backgrounds or the working class, you know, in general. Like in TV soaps like EastEnders, Coronation Street, and Emmerdale and stuff. So elitism stems from production companies responsible for creating and distributing these shows. Like the BBC is a very elitist company, really. And it's all about politics. The government control the BBC. That's why we have to pay that TV license every year in the UK because of it. It's always so it is perpetuated by the patriarchal capitalist order of society and the work system they operate under, which implements this ideology on a cultural level. So it's always made for those people. So who are we talking about here? Middle class men who are white and don't know much about society. They think they know, but they really don't. They're just ignorant and bigoted. They don't understand what we want as an audience. They don't know. They just want to put their own work into it. They only choose what they think is appropriate instead of understanding what everyone else wants. And I think they're on the top because they want to control. The capitalist order is all about fending for yourself. You don't have any choice. You have to own your own wealth. And that's what this thing is trying to say. This chart, because they're on the top, the royalty, the lords, barons, earls, the dukes, the government, some of the members of the government, like Boris Johnson, is part of the elite, the upper class. And there's bishops, priests, they're upper class as well. And the soldiers and all that. Depending, because the bottom is always going to be the lower class. So these production companies cater for the upper middle class elite. So what they intend to do is to maintain the status quo. That's all they tend to do. And they're doing it through the power of media. Media is a very powerful thing. And that's what they're using it for. They want to control the way we think, how we do it. But we have choice, as always. But that's what they tend to do. They're using media to control us. The lower classes and them basically. So television formats differ between the UK and the US. So in the UK, the BBC is the public television company funded by the government, and citizens must pay an annual fee of for a television license, as I mentioned. So according to its former director John Reeve, who actually came up with this BBC many years back. And he had a clear agenda for what the BBC wanted, what he wanted the BBC to do. And so the original purpose, as he wanted it, is to educate viewers through television. But he only puts certain programs on there that he thinks is more suitable for those. And for children as well, they had certain programs, adults as well. So Gail Branston describes Reef's intentions for the public broadcasting service as a means of preventing entertainment from overshadowing the service's educational goals. So the purpose of the BBC at the time was never to entertain anyone, a family that's watching telly. They only want to educate. So instead, the audience should be entertained while learning from the program's message, because and learning is entertainment. People nowadays, it's happened. We have ways of learning and entertaining families and friends through TV. TV is a very powerful thing, and it could create a positive or negative influence on people and the way they think, and their thinking, the way of thought as well. So whether the person thinks positively or negatively about something. This approach is known as television. It's one-sided in educating audiences about societal issues. Branston notes that creators must take an ideological standpoint to avoid being passive. So that's the only way they can do it, is to put their own standpoint, their own stories into it, their own ideas. Because they don't want to, it makes everyone more active. Active minds, active thinking. Charlotte Higgins, who writes about the BBC's origins, describes it as expressing ideas about nationhood, modernity, and democracy. So basically, that's what the BBC stands by in terms of its ethos and its purpose as well. At the time, and even now, today, is still technically its purpose, but it has more entertainment aspects of it, like different channels now, like BBC Three, and they put a separate channel, BBC Four, is made for the arts and all that. BBC Two is all about nature and all the rest of it. And BBC One is just general programs that come on TV, like game shows and news channel, the news bulletin, and anything else, any form of entertainment. So, as a media channel, the BBC has power over the issues it explores. Like, they will be the ones to call the shots on what they want us to watch. Whoever's viewing the BBC channel wants to watch. And they commission it and schedule the time, hours of time they want to put it on. Downton Abbey was a groundbreaking program in rethinking the concept of a period drama. The series is set during the Edwardian period, which is between the 1900s to the 1910s. So basically, it's after Queen Victoria died I think she died in 1901. So with certain factors being made to modernize. So they add el- F- elements of modernity into it. But I've not seen the program. I've seen a couple episodes. I didn't really enjoy it, so it's not for me personally. So most period dramas would need extensive research for the production to look perfect as possible because they're dealing with a historical period of time. Depending on what the decade is or the era of what the program is set, where the program is set. Maybe it's if you set during the First World War or during the Victorian times, Georgian. But sometimes some of them go against the grain deliberately as well. I think I saw a video about it, I can't remember. The setting was the First World War was set, so the time period is set is during the First World War and the suffragette movement, which allows people's voices to be heard on issues they feel are unjust, like war and women's rights as well, human rights as well, because soldiers are actually going there, putting their lives at risk just to save their country, even though they don't like the idea of war. Is is what they had to do. The women's rights, the suffragette movement was made because the women felt devalued in society. That they always want. I think because men, the patriarchal order, as I've been mentioning, and the capitalist order, is why people are speaking up during those times because of it. And one lady had to put her own life. I can't remember her name. She had to sacrifice herself for the vote of women. None of us would have voted today. Even I wouldn't have voted today. I'm a woman as well. My mother, my sister, my grandma, my cousin. Today, all women. The, the program tackles issues such as gender and class. Like the Duke, in the program, the Duke only had daughters, so he had to find a male heir to his dukedom, and women are not getting equal rights to their male counterparts because women don't, even in upper class society, women don't have much say on matters. And the title of the dukedom that this program has was only made for males. Even though females can inherit from their fathers, they can't actually inherit most of it from it. They only inherit one part to the other, compared to the other. I think some royalty, I think it's quite interesting. It's very hard for me to say it because I don't know much about it. Because I think there's laws surrounding primogeniture, which is when a male takes precedence before his sisters to rule, for the right to rule or to inherit, like the throne or the titles or whatever. And the women and the females, maybe it's absolute primogeniture. It's when it's in order based on age or based on who's first, who's second. The age of the eldest son and eldest daughter or whoever. And it goes back to their uncle and auntie and all that. The most senior line, basically. So Julian Fellows, who wrote the script for Downton Abbey, is a conservative peer and has valued ideologies on what the show explores, which left wing critics do not support. Basically, he supports this full idea of patriarchy and capitalism. And this program is for the upper class. And lower classes are supposed to be seen but not heard. on what they feel strongly about. Like I've been saying, like this paragraph says, the war and the suffragette movement. And these issues were unjust. These were the events that people took risked their lives for, you know. And it's still like this today, even in the UK. We have a messed up government in this country that don't even care about us as working class people. No wonder why we're such a rut in terms of the living crisis, cost of living crisis. So Jerome de Groot states that the show, as a post-heritage, defines the show post-heritage for being an innovator of postmodernist period drama with a blend of traditionalism, which is basically British traditionalism, because of how the titles were inherited, and maintaining the rich history of British values. So basically, that's what the show is intending to do. And Julian Fellows stands by that as a writer and the program's creator as well. And it's always they're just wanting post. It has as I mentioned, even though it's set during the Edwardian period, it has elements of postmodernism, and it's very big postmodernism, and it's very controversial and debatable in its own right because not everything needs to be accurate. And it doesn't feel diverse for me in terms of the cast because we're supposed to be celebrating diversity and we're supposed to be moving forward, but it's not really happening right now. And nowadays, people want stories that are more diverse and more inclusive and engaging as well. I know we're talking about historical periods, and there is such thing as high quality TV. Bridgerton is a period drama, but it's more diverse than Downton Abbey. And it talks about race, class, because of the upper classes and what they have power and politics and power as well. And patriarchy, capitalism, everything that's covered in Bridgerton is covered in Downton Abbey, but Downton Abbey doesn't do justice. High end TV is very popular in the UK now, and there are a lot of programs that are doing it now in the UK. And in America, people only cared about American shows because they had better camera. I think it's because of the quality of camera that they use and how the shots per frame, frames per shot, because they do 30 frames per shot, which has better quality than having 24 or 25 frames per shot per second. The way we do our film in the UK. I think but the problem with shooting at 30 is because it's more, the file is more larger. They have better quality. And nowadays we have, as in the late 2010s, there's high-end TV and we have shows on Netflix, ITV, BBC that we can consider as high-end TV because it is becoming more popular as a medium and a mode for TV for us, which educates and talks about things. So costume drama is high-end TV. That's what they call quality TV. And British TV does hold back onto that, like a strong tradition of costume dramas dating to the 1950s, and it's happening today. And we still see costume dramas today, but nothing like Bridgerton because it's supposed to be very diverse. So the BBC was instrumental for creating this genre, adapting literary works for the small screen, which is their means for us to be educated on the novel that we tend to study in school, college, university, in our English classes and media classes. The ITV prefers to shoot their costume dramas on film rather than adapting texts because they have their own. I think the reason is because they want to be, they feel they can not to include. I don't know if it's about, I don't think it's the right word to say inclusive because costume dramas were not made for certain. It just gets other people enjoying it and stories can be better. It allows us to talk about it more. Allows maybe because ITV was made for the working class family or middle class sometimes. And these broadcasters operate differently because ITV is a commercial channel, whilst the BBC relies on public campaigns. Critics praise costume dramas for their high production values, including good acting, set design, costume, and variations in camera shots and angles. Because, and as I mentioned, like the Groot, he's a author, praises Downton Abbey for being the show that reinvents the drama genre, the period drama genre, which has been often compared to costume dramas like soap, glamorous American soap operas like Dynasty and Dallas, which apparently in America I think they do it better than us, in my opinion, because they're more glossy and glamorized. They have more glossy effect and more traction compared to the British soaps, which are ones cover about gritty and working class people. That's what soaps are intended for, or tend to cover about the working class. However, critics also note that costume dramas tend to be conservative in aesthetics and content and rarely address contemporary societal issues or challenges because they're not aimed for everybody. They're only made for certain groups. They're aimed for the upper and working class. Even though ITV does like to make up their own costume dramas from a film idea or script, it's not going to attract anybody, is it? It's not even still not made for the working class people. And the mise en scène is too safe compared to the grittier socialist films, social realist films that are moving on. Because they tend to talk about political issues. Depends who you hire as well, as who's the writer, basically what they write about or who's the director. And there are lots of people. I worked for a director. I did a location master shoot for a director who talks about who does working class films. Like Mike Lee, he always talks about working class people going into middle class, which is not always ideal because they tend to lose themselves once they become middle class. And they're not in touch with their roots anymore. So some socialists debate that heritage film and the terms heritage film and heritage television and their relevance to the genre, which is kind of is what it is, basically. Because they only discuss about British values and keeping in the tradition of what Britain is supposed to be or what they think Britain is. Instead of talking about what Britain's actually going through or what is happening, current affairs. That's what they didn't discuss. So I think that the term quality is only used in terms of how it looks, like how the show looks. Because costume dramas are quality TV. Quality TV is what is aesthetically pleasing to the audience rather than what is supposed to be educating us about. I think they're just doing it, using that term just to separate some shows among others because they don't think a gritty television show like Moving On is a good show for everyone because they only talk about what's affecting our society, which is what we need to know about. I think we need to know about these things because we can't keep hiding and pretending that everything's okay. We can't maintain British values. It's not celebrating diversity and British values. I think they're only celebrating the fact that they're so British instead of celebrating everybody who comes to Britain to be a part of Britain and what makes Britain it what makes Britain today really. I think the fact they're just using it because they need to have attractive actors. They need to have good stage. It's all staged to make it look seem good and everything needs to be perfect. Every shot needs to look good. Every camera, every angle. And it's only made to make people feel comfortable. It's not made. So even high end quality TV, some of it is not really could be considered quality TV, like they say, but it's not really quality TV as such because some of it, because it only attracts people. That's why people go to it to watch high end TV and to watch quality TV, which they consider quality TV because we want to see something that we like rather than what the thing that we should be learning from or what should we understand about our society, the way we how is it affecting us as people and who we can relate to because we can't relate to certain characters on there. And they're not celebrating diversity as well and the trueness of our world. They're not representing people right. They're stereotyping as well. Like the soaps, they're stereotyping working class people. Like the BBC, for example, EastEnders, there's only like one Asian family and one black family, and the rest are white, Cockney speaking people. But it's not really the case in this in real life. It's not the case. So that's my own interpretation of it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Here are the references about quality TV, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share, subscribe, and if you enjoy it, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.